Right, well, it's been about a month since I last talked about the woes of Manchester United, which means it's time for me to rinse them once more.
He's done it again!
Last episode on Lost, again, for like the fourth time this month. I know people are going to complain, oh, Niran, you're talking about Manchester United again. Oh, Niran, you talk about United more than Liverpool. Oh, Niran, your piece is 2.5 inches long. All things that are said to me on a regular basis, okay, I understand. But I don't think people truly understand what's going on here. 14th in the league, 3 points away from being 17th position in April. But honestly, I think like a different Andrew Tate, and it's time we lose faith in these men.
April Fool's Day, he's the biggest fool in Manchester.
Because this side is now guaranteed to statistically be the worst Manchester United team in Premier League history, and seem intent on driving their fans to an early grave. And that's not just the results, that's the 48 metric tons of water falling from Old Trafford every weekend when it even thinks about a light drizzle in the city. United are a mess, but it's absolutely worse than you thought. Before we do get into this properly though, would massively appreciate it if you hit the like button down below. If you do enjoy my content, honestly, you wouldn't understand, it really does help quite a lot in terms of people actually seeing my videos. So yeah, would massively appreciate that. And of course, if you aren't already, subscribe. We're aiming for 750k soon, and when we hit that, I'll be testing out the knee, okay? We're overcoming the injury. There was a little skit there at the start about United maybe being a TV show, and it's fair to say that ratings would firmly be down. It actually works well because in the same way that Black Mirror's directors and creators are definitely using ketamine when writing the show, Ruben Amorim is using that same substance when deciding to put Andre Onana in between the sticks in his United starting 11s. In fact, it's fair to say Andre Onana would probably be one of the main characters as himself. That's already foolish enough as it is. Any teenage girl that uses a bit too much mascara would probably be a fitting cast or role for Alejandro Garnacho. For Luke Shaw, just go to Queen's Medical Centre and pick out anybody from the paraplegic department. Your uncle's been casted as Casemiro. Yes, that uncle. We already know who's playing Rasmus Højlund, or has been playing Rasmus Højlund so far this season. And as for Sir Jim Ratcliffe, you know, he's at the top of the company, I guess. He can be the director that's one more court appearance away from even Hollywood actually deciding they should get him out of there. Every episode is shit. And the most recent addition to the series was a 4-1 slapping at St James's Park from a Newcastle United side fighting for a top 4 spot. Now, they are a good side in their own right. They're a side that beat Liverpool, of course, in the Carabao Cup final, that have definitely looked very, very good in the second half of the season especially, and at fight for every single ball. But with Eddie Howe in hospital for the game, get well soon, Eddie, they were probably receiving tactical analysis from Anton Deck. Their manager worked from home, and they still won so handedly. He wasn't even ill. He just knew that Manchester United were coming up and said, you know what, I'll take the day off. I actually used to think that maybe Brooklyn Nine-Nine was the best comedy show available on Netflix, but honestly I think Manchester United might have taken that crown, because even the likes of Wolves are now chasing them down. Now let's get into the Newcastle game. The big news for this one was the dropping of Andre Onana after mistakes that he made against Lyon in the Europa League. He wasn't even involved in the squad, and it meant the Turkish goalkeeper Bayındır would be taking his spot in between the sticks. Apparently a rest was the reason for this dropping, that being Ruben Amorim getting a rest from his constant bullshit. Nemanja Matic will be knee sliding across his carpeted living room hearing the news, explaining he's still a big influence at Old Trafford when he returns to see his teammates in Ligue 1.
It's all about me.
Let's be honest though, I'm sure Andre will still try and get himself involved when Bruno Fernandes gets a free kick 27 yards out from goal and the Cameroonian tries to give him advice that nobody asked for. But obviously this being an opportunity for Bayındır to maybe stake his claim for being Ruben Amorim's first choice goalkeeper for next season, it was his Premier League debut, he would need to impress. Yeah, the exact same shit happened again, I'll be so real. He of course conceded 4, and the 4th goal really summed it up, him trying to play out from the back only to find a noggin of Joe Linton, and Bruno Guimaraes slotted it past him. New goalkeeper, same situation. Andre will have been fighting to keep it together watching from his sofa, realising he'll be straight back in the team next week again. Because watching on the TV, it looked like Bayındır was a little bit distracted when it came to deciding who to play the ball out to. I can't wait for United to go with Tom Heaton next week and for him to pull out the worst mistake you've ever seen. Maybe that position is cursed, honestly. Either way, there was a beautiful goal from Sandro Tonali elsewhere in this game. Garnacho got United level again, only of course, as I mentioned, for Bruno Guimaraes to score and for Harvey Barnes to get a brace. Red Devils fans weren't too pleased with him at full time.
Hey, fuck you, Harvey Barnes!
We talked a lot about the goalkeeping situation, but all round this was a poor performance. In fairness, a slightly weakened side. I think Ruben Amorim definitely, of course, at this point in the season, prioritising United in the Europa League. The season, from a Premier League perspective, is absolutely done, but if they can win the Europa League, they're in the Champions League next season. Either way, it was one of their regulars, Diogo Dalot, who not only made a case for getting dropped, but for getting deported out of the entire country, allowing Tino Livramento to just blast past him for the 2nd goal. He is a disgrace of a footballer, and a disgrace to the trust of Cristiano Ronaldo for saying that he worked hard. I don't care. He can have 6 jobs on the side and be helping at a homeless shelter. I don't want him involved, and I'm not even a United fan. You know what it is, actually? United, this is actual serious efficiency. They're just starting the usual trajectory of an Ineos club significantly earlier than normal. If anything, these lot are actually ahead of schedule. When they brought Ruben Amorim in, astoundingly then, they were 12th. And that was already disastrous. But early on in the season, at least at a point where you could rectify things, and maybe with a decent run of form, find yourselves 7th, maybe even 6th. I mean, to be honest with you, the European battle has not even been, in my eyes, that strong this season. And bear with me, it's been an amazing battle to watch, but Nottingham Forest the third, who have been amazing in their own right, but you wouldn't expect them to be there. Manchester City have obviously been awful by their own standards. Chelsea haven't looked like winning a game in about 2 months. Newcastle and Villa, I think, are performing as to be expected and are coming into their own now. With no Tottenham in the picture, Fulham, Brighton, Bournemouth in the area, I don't think it would have been particularly difficult to finish even 8th in the league this season. So for Ruben Amorim to have taken a side from 12th to 14th is even more concerning. And on the theme of that number, whilst it's a squad that makes absolutely no sense given his tactical style and his tactical preferences, they've now lost 14 games this season in the league already, the same amount they achieved last year.
Fucking Jesus is Lord!
And what does that mean? These lot are awful. Yeah, that's pretty much it, I'm gonna be honest. There's no togetherness, and ultimately I think some individuals have got to go. I ultimately don't think Ruben Amorim has actually done very well with the tools at his disposal, and I think he maybe underestimated the job that he had, the job at hand when he arrived. I mean, he said multiple times when he was in training that he just didn't realize this team was gonna be as bad as it is. I think he does need to be given a chance, though, with his own side, with a few signings that at least fit into his usual mold of player, and a chance to deploy tactics that work so well at Sporting. But if this is still absolutely terrible next season, and then big questions have got to be asked. Either way, this team was absolutely appalling for Erik ten Hag, and it looks even worse under Ruben Amorim, so let's do some investigating. Are these players actually good enough to play for United, or is it a managerial and board problem again? First up, Andre Onana. The worst part about Andre Onana is he can actually be like a decent goalkeeper when he's had like his normal blood sugar level. The problem is he has like the concentration, like ceiling and ability of a 4-year-old with crippling ADHD trying to juggle like 7 bowls at the same time. He makes far too many mistakes. You just cannot be a top quality goalkeeper at a club as big as Manchester United and make as many mistakes as he does. I know you get punished more as a goalkeeper when you do make mistakes, but even like forget like top 6 or traditional top 6 clubs, yeah? Just look at the clubs around United right now. Above him, he's not better than Jordan Pickford, and he's barely better than Dean Henderson. Below him, he's definitely not better than Vicario. Probably the same level as Jose Sarr with a few more interesting saves, and probably not better than Ariola at West Ham. Overall, he just isn't that great. He was decent for Inter. Don't get it twisted. I think he's just not really been able to deal with the pressure here. He's got in his own head. He's making far too many mistakes. At his pinnacle, at his peak, when he's actually performing well and making good saves, he's genuinely not that bad. But factor in all the mistakes and yeah, he's about as good as where he is genuinely. The guy got caught taking performance-enhancing drugs and didn't even enhance his performance. Diogo Dalot, mentioned him before, woeful. I know he'll have spells of like 4 months where he'll look amazing at a right back, and United fans will be like, oh, he was the bargain of the century. No, I don't know how he's lasted so long. It's testament to where United are as a club, their recruitment, and just the general situation. I always see this when it comes to Victor Lindelof getting like labelled as the embodiment of where United are. When the fuck does Lindelof even play? I know he played against Newcastle, I know he captained them, but it's because United have got like 3 centre-back injuries, or they're not wanting to play certain players, so they can rest them for bigger games. Lindelof doesn't play every week. Dalot is a key fixture of United's team, and he's bad, objectively. We move on to the centre-backs. Obviously, I know Lindelof played against Newcastle, right? Lisandro Martinez, I don't mind him when he's not trying to send opponents to the Paralympic Games. He's got to get that double-footed lunge out of his game, but he's a decent centre-back, even if he is ID'd every single time he gets a Red Bull.
Got 50p. Fuck you, bastard.
De Ligt is all right in terms of, you know, if we're talking about the rest of the team here, or like comparative to the rest of the Premier League. I don't think he's necessarily been that calming elite. I know he's not an elite centre-back, but when United signed him, I'm sure their fans were hoping he would kind of settle things down at the back, and I don't think he's been able to achieve that. But he's even still probably one of their better signings over the last couple of years. Lenny Yoro's got potential, but he's not there yet. Then at left back, I think Dorgu looks, again, all right. I think he'll look a bit better, maybe flourish a bit more in a system that works. In midfield, Casemiro, retirement home. Eriksen, retirement home. Bruno Fernandes is probably one of the best midfielders in the league. Up there. No, I'm not saying like top 3, but maybe like top 6. That means he's still very, very good though. I'm not taking anything away. He's by far and away United's best player. He works a lot harder as well than I think a lot of people give him credit for. He doesn't deserve to have these wassies around him, but he does deserve it actually because he's quite an unlikable player, and I don't say that about many people. Amad Diallo's amazing, but he's injured. Alejandro Garnacho, fam, I would rather let an unborn child decide my fate in an important situation than him. He can't even decide what side to butter his bread, fam. He'll just stand in the kitchen for 20 minutes. I don't think he has footballing intelligence. I've gone on the record this season saying that people should give Garnacho a little bit more time. He is young. At the end of the day, he's not crazily experienced. But then I thought about it, and he has actually been playing for United in the first team for a decent amount of time now. He should be able to make important decisions better than he does in terms of playing balls in, or, you know, that like final bit of IQ that determines whether a player is going to be really impactful as a footballer in their whole career. I just don't think he has that edge. Amad Diallo is amazing, but obviously is out injured, and I wonder where exactly he'll fit into Amorim's system. Zirkzee would be a great footballer if the objective of football wasn't to score. And as for Rasmus Højlund, he would still be a bad footballer even if the objective of football was to not score. He might be one of the worst strikers I've ever seen at a major club in England. And that sounds really harsh, but like statistically, what is even going on? The guy just ended a 16 or 17 game drought without scoring. You're a striker. How does it not just even bounce off your knee by accident at one point? It wasn't even in the league. That was just a random European game. I can't remember who he was playing actually when that happened, but I don't think it was was it Sociedad? Maybe it was, but either way, he hasn't got the link-up play. He hasn't got the outright clinical finishing ability. He doesn't seem to have the movement. He's still young, again, like Garnacho, and I think he can have a successful career somewhere else. But at a place where the pressure is so high and the rest of the team around him just isn't very good, they need such a better striker than him. Jesus Christ. You also wonder, you know, they've loaned out Marcus Rashford. I know Amorim wasn't maybe happy with how he was training. You make a statement and a stand a lot of the time. As a manager, you are paid to make the difficult decisions. I wonder, he's gone to Aston Villa, looked much better than any of United's forwards since he left. Was that a good decision? Anthony Fairs, he's gone Betis, he's become a freak of nature. No one could have predicted that. The guy didn't look as if he could make it down the stairs unassisted 3 weeks ago. You know what, let's go through their results, man, because, right, so they lost 4-1 to Newcastle, but again, slightly changed sides, so whilst it was a dupping, and whilst it doesn't look very good, it's kind of just more of the same, really, as to what United have offered with who they had available. Lyon, disaster given Andre Onana, but at least it's a draw going into a home leg. City drew 0-0. Both teams looked uninspiring. Forest lose 1-0, again to one of your former players in Alanga, who's also looked better than all of their forwards, probably even including Diallo this season overall. Leicester, they won 3-0. Great. Leicester are one of the worst teams I've ever seen in the Prem. Sociedad, obviously decent results there. Draw against Arsenal, decent result as well. Lost to Fulham in the cup, just about scraped past Ipswich. Drew to Everton, lost to one of the worst Tottenham teams we've ever seen. Scraped past Leicester in the FA Cup, lost to Palace, battered by Brighton, battered by Newcastle, lost to Tottenham in the EFL Cup, lost to Wolves. It's just like, geez, it doesn't end, fam. There's not been like even a glimmer of light at any point in the season. Now, I'm sure United fans are expecting me to talk a lot and in depth here about Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. I've already made a video on my thoughts about Sir Jim Ratcliffe and United's kind of footballing ownership. I know he's only a part owner. Glazers are still involved, but ultimately he is very much in charge of footballing operations in terms of hiring and more often than not, clearly recently, firing people. And I don't think that's helped. I don't think he's employed the right people since he's taken, you know, that role. But I've already talked about it quite a lot. He is massively to blame as well in regards to the last year and a half. But I'm kind of more talking about actual personnel here, because I think more than long enough, United players have gotten away with being absolutely average at best, and then a cycle of managers happens, and then someone gets sacked, someone loses their job, because it's easier to sack a manager than get rid of an entire starting 11, and the cycle goes on. Yes, Sir Jim Ratcliffe is very bad at his job, and he's not a good person at all, and he shouldn't be anywhere near running a football club as prestigious as Manchester United. But these players have got to look at themselves and take some accountability, because whilst I've gone through them and kind of ripped them a new one in terms of some of them aren't good enough, they are still better than where they are right now. 38 points. Mathematically, they're not even safe from relegation. That's mad. We're midway through April. We've got 6 games of the season to go. If Ipswich turned into Brazil 76 or whatever, reincarnated, United would probably go down. That's the situation we're actually, yeah. And whilst Casemiro is old, he shouldn't be getting relegated, or he shouldn't be near enough 17th in the league. Whilst Eriksen is old, shouldn't be 17th. Lisandro Martinez, he's injured, actually, that's kind of harsh. But De Ligt, Euro, Zirkzee, Garnacho, Onana. These are, as I said, they're not the pinnacle of United players ever, but they absolutely should not be basically 15th, 16th, 17th in the league at this point in the season. We talked about Tottenham and why they're down there, sorry, and it's down to tactical stubbornness, but it's also, to be honest, in my eyes, mostly down to a massive injury crisis, which has led to that tactical stubbornness and everything else that's happened since then. Can United even really use that as an excuse? Diallo injury, yeah, pretty peak, was probably your most exciting player. That's always rough, but every team loses their best player for like 6 weeks in a season. Usually, it just happens. You know, Arsenal lost Saka, they've now lost Gabriel. I say Arsenal's injuries have been significantly worse than United's. Lisandro's been out for a while. Zirkzee just got injured against Newcastle, but I don't know. I don't think you can really use that as an excuse. So they're just bad, outright bad. I'd love to know kind of what United fans think about this squad. I know what your opinions are going to be on the ownership. I know what your opinions are going to be on Ineos, but I would love, absolutely love to know who out of this 11 do you think would actually make it into a starting 11 for next season? How many players would you actually like to keep around? And also the manager as well. But that is going to be it from me. United are bad, moral of the story. If you have enjoyed this video, feel free to slap a like on it. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at the official FNG on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.